This is Trust Issues. Trust is a goblin who is convinced that anything not made by him is absolute trash. Our goal is to reach and beat the Elder Dragon of Death, Zaitan, without dying and using only items and consumables that we craft ourselves. This is hardcore Craftlocked Guild Wars 2. The rules of this challenge: I can only use items and food that we ourselves craft. I am on a brand new free-to-play account with no resources. I can use the other character slot to have more crafting professions available to me. I can use money that I earn on this account to buy raw materials only. Originally, I was going to just farm everything, but since I was doing this live, we opted to add this rule in to reduce farming time to keep the show as entertaining as possible. If a story step forces you to die, we don't count that. I added this because I remember a moment in Living World Season 4 with a case like this, but I honestly can't recall if there's any of these in the base game. A quick shout out to Saki Boy on YouTube, who was doing a similar challenge in WoW and gave me this idea. Starting off, we have to pick a race and a class. I looked up the various racial abilities and skills and felt that none of them would have any impact on our challenge, so I chose to stick with Asura simply because it's my favorite. Next up, selecting a class. While I am known for maining Ranger, I didn't immediately lock this in. I dismissed some of them, such as Guardian and Elementalist, due to them having very low base defensive stats. Engineer was a very strong maybe due to its kits, giving it access to a variety of weapon skills even if the crafted equipment falls behind in level. In the end, I did decide to go with Ranger for one specific reason: downstate lick wounds. Rangers, when downstate, have a skill that calls their pet over to attempt to revive them. Hopefully I would never need this, but it would offer us one last line of defense to try and save ourselves if we get down to the wire. After styling our character, I chose a Drake for our starting pet due to it being the tankiest of the three starting options. Chose a college to steal a degree from, invented an infinity ball, and signed up for classes with Professor Bronk and signed in. Now, in the challenge that inspired this, the WoW player in question deleted all of his starting gear. I started to do the same, but had a sudden realization. Guild Wars 2 does not have punching. Most classes, if they delete their starting weapon, they literally cannot fight. The only way they could gain XP would be roaming around and opening up the map while they try not to die. Ranger does have the pet to attack, but you can't control it until level 5, so we would have to smash our faces into things, get hit, then the pet would defend us. The audience felt that this would be a pretty stupid first couple of hours, so we voted to just let Trust Issues keep his starting gear and say that he made that in the past. We follow the tutorial until we find a massive golem the Inquest are controlling. Not wanting to embarrass myself and have any early accidents, I sat at max range poking it until it fell. I leveled up and got a bow with some of the worst craftsmanship I've ever seen. It's staying in my bag until I can salvage or sell it.
Know your f***ing place, trash.
We tidy up some toolboxes, take down some rogue golems, not mine of course, and hit levels 3 and 4. Man, they really sped up the XP gain in this game. At which point I'm given what some would call a bag. Now, we didn't craft this, so we cannot use this. It isn't even double stitched anyway. I'll make my own later. I started climbing up to my first vista. At this point, I have a dawning realization. One of the biggest threats to this challenge is going to be gravity. I do not have gliding. If I fall from the height of an average vista, this character could die a very embarrassing death. Suddenly, a lot of jumping puzzles just got a lot scarier. I went into a cave, took down some fire elementals, then was reminded I don't have auto loot anymore and I need to be clicking on these corpses. We continue killing everything in sight. I hit level 5. I gained the pet panel and the ability to give commands to my pet and name him. Meet Skittles. I don't trust anyone, but I don't trust Skittles less than I don't trust most. We find some inquests handing out recruitment flyers outside the local elementary school and shoot them in the face. Get another level and get the worst excuse for a sword I've ever seen. Into the bag. Next up, we help some untrustworthy looking Asura by capturing a bunch of electricity in our bodies and moving it into containment vessels. Nothing could possibly go wrong with this. We repaired some broken golems and unlocked the Black Lion Trading Company. At this point, we found out that the free-to-play account can sell the trick-or-treat bags from the Halloween event. So I posted one for a few silver, and if it sells, we will double our money. Briefly take a dip in the pond to unlock the point of interest, but we do not have any aquatic weaponry. If we get jumped, it's all on Skittles to keep us safe. Leave the pond and find the dodge trainer, dodging in and out for the free chest. I fight a pig who drops an iron sword. I don't know where he was keeping it, but it explains why he was so mad. We then get to an ooze research lab, which might be where amalgams are born, and help them with ooze research by sharing with them my thesis paper titled Violence. We hit level 8 at some point, unlocking underwater equipment. However, I would probably probably die if I put my breath in the hands of whoever made this rebreather, so we're salvaging these and try to make our own later. Editing muck here, if the wiki is to be believed, there is no crafted medium or light armor rebreathers in the entire game, so unless I lax the rules on this, for now I guess I'm holding my breath. Soon after, I fight some frogs and get my first hero point. However, I cannot use it until level 11, so we're just holding on to it for now. I hit level 9 and get my first gathering tools. You can't craft gathering tools, and we will need mats for these challenges, so I am going to be using these. However, I notice they break after a few uses. This is the exact reason I don't trust other crafters. At this point, my bag is bursting, and I desperately need salvage kits. I find a merchant in a building designed by a drunk architect and spend half of my life savings to get a salvage kit and start scrapping everything I've looted so far and selling the rest. We teach some script math, they scream and go hostile, and we beat them down in self-defense. We find ourselves in a small town with crafting trainers, and it is time to make some decisions. Each character in Guild Wars 2 can have 2 crafting professions by default. Since we are in medium armor and also need bags, leatherworking is a given. The rest is going to be for our weapons. We can choose Weaponsmith for access to sword, greatsword, dagger, and underwater spear, or Huntsman for longbow, shortbow, torch, warhorn, and harpoon gun. I can swap professions for free to then make something from another profession later, but for now I need to make a decision. I went with Huntsman to focus on staying as safe as possible. While in the town, I hit level 10 and was given the rental raptor for 10 hours. We'll enjoy it while it lasts. I look over the materials I need to get an idea of what to shoot for. Primarily, lots of leather and some blood. Wood for bows is easy because we could chop down nodes as we find them. At this point, someone suggested going into World v World to get a war claw. That sounded wrong to me, and I checked, and World v World is not available to me on free to play until level 60. I find my first event to swipe some raptor eggs, and I need some events for the adventure guide that gives a ton of experience, so I guess I'm swiping eggs. We hit level 11 and unlock our first utility skill. I look over the race specific options and didn't really like what I saw. I chose to get the Signet of the Hunt as my first utility skill, giving my pet and I a much needed 25% boost to run speed. Skittles leveled up at some point, and I can now use his F2 to barf bugs at people. Taste the rainbow. I find a veteran marsh drake under a waterfall. I take it down cautiously, but don't have any issues. This gives me a false sense of confidence versus veteran mobs. Remember this, it will be important later. I fight a bunch of scrit in a cave and I hit level 13. I try to put some hero points into a trait line, but quickly realize I can't until level 21. However, I noticed a broken image next to Untamed. It is apparently obtained from the Pink expansion. I reported this to ArenaNet. My unpaid Q&A work continues. As I get equipment boxes, I just choose whatever skins I don't have unlocked, then salvage it for materials to make more quality armor. I wander around taking out everything I can. Drop some inquests, drop some frogs, hit level 16. I realize I have another utility skill opened up. I chose to get Signet of Renewal. It is a solid emergency button that is a stun break, and it also moves all conditions on you to your pet if the pet is close enough. While not on cooldown, it provides passive healing over time to you and your pet. I start getting bags of loot and find that they are really exciting due to all the random crafting materials they can give. I climb a tower to get a vista, and despite having done jumping puzzles 10,000 times worse than this one, I am super nervous due to the hardcore aspect of this challenge and gravity. I go into a swamp and delete the local insect population to appease some frogs. I continue being a one-man terror to this zone, going around Metrica province and get a quest in a cave where I need to destroy chaotic material. One of them turns me into a rabbit, and a mob smacks me for almost half my health, giving me the biggest scare so far. I run until I turn back to normal and take him down. I continue through the cave until I find a veteran mob. I smoked the last veteran mob, and I am no longer a rabbit, so this will be easy. I send in my pet first and start lighting him up. He then promptly smacks me for 70% of my health bar. My level 1 armor is not holding up very well. I go invisible with longbow 3, but he patiently waits for me to reappear, then pursues me again, ignoring Skittles entirely. We play ring around the boulder for a while until I chip him down, but that was way too close. I open up the map around Thaumanova Reactor, and someone points out that the Fire Elemental world boss is about to begin. I figure I could safely join in on this as long as I hang way back and use my starter longbow. This allows me to get a lot of credit for the local heart while working on the meta. Using the rental raptor, I hop onto a raised platform where I'm convinced I will be safe from the Fire Elemental. I looted a special Halloween bag worth 40 silver, and I try to sell it on the TP, but free to play apparently cannot sell this. This sucks, as that would have been 400% of my life savings. I open the bag and sell some of its contents. I clean up my bags while waiting on the Fire fire elemental to spawn. When he finally appears, he immediately targets me with a meteor, knocking me down, then a smaller meteor nails me in the head. Thank God I had Signet of Renewal on the bar, or I might have died right then and there. I stun break out of the knockdown, which cures my conditions, then pop my heal skill and start dodging fireballs like my life depends on it, because it does. I get hit by another pop heal and dodge frame a second, which would have dropped me. I continue moving around the outside of the fight, firing arrows and trying to stay alive. I decided to leave the combat area for a minute until he gets lower, then go back in to help finish him off. Finally, after much stress, we take him down and get level 19 and a ton of loot to salvage. I take it back to the crafting town and make our first bag, an 8-slot leather pouch, custom. I review the materials I need to make upgrades, and the main thing I'm missing is blood. Apparently everything I've been fighting so far runs on oil. I notice I unlocked my third utility slot at some point and put Signet of Stone on it, increasing the toughness of me and my pet and providing us another emergency button. Signet of Stone stops all incoming power damage for a few seconds, not conditions, when activated. I start running around the zone, shooting everything in sight, looking for something that runs on blood when I finally find some on a Skelk, which I continue farming for a few minutes. We hit level 20 and we are offered a selection of the worst rings I've ever seen. I immediately trash them and decide the second character on this account will probably be a jeweler and a chef to handle those needs. If I ever want anything from Weaponsmith, I'll have to swap professions on someone to do so. I come across a veteran air elemental, but this one stays locked onto Skittles, giving us a much easier time. Find another town, get some iron gathering tools, clean up the bags, and more salvage kits. So we're going through a lot of salvage kits. Now that I have some blood, we are starving for leather. This was when we decided that I would be allowed to use coin I earn on this character to buy raw materials, just to avoid hours of farming leather while streaming. I noticed I'm 21, and I decide to put my first points into Beast Mastery, which simply gives Skittles a small bonus to all stats and reduces the cooldown of his abilities. I also took a trait giving us each a stack of might when the other crits, providing a small bonus to damage. We reached the Fire Elemental Mastery point, which I was slightly worried about, but another player was working on it too. We successfully promoted him to non-consensual tank and got the hero point at the minor cost of half of that guy's health. After taking down a few Inquest bases, I head back to Craft Town and craft a mighty crude longbow, a 50% damage increase from our level 1 weapon. At this point, I go back and do the level 10 quest, where me and the other kids are showing off our inventions to the teachers. We stop some sabotage, but then the pilot of the golem becomes trapped and the malfunctioning golem takes off. I'm sure she's fine. We salvage all of our rewards from the quest, giving us more juicy mats. We enter Radasum, place Simon Says to track the runaway golem and find out its location is here.
Oh yeah!
After subduing the golem, we leave them time to recover and head into downtown Radasum. This town scares me a bit as there are numerous openings where you can fall from the flying city. There are 3 ranger pets in Radasum, a pink moa, a Siamoth, and a red jellyfish. I'd like to have something to fall back on if Skittles needs time to recover. I add these new Winions to our stables and bequeath upon them names which make obvious their strength and cunning to all who witness them. Fruit Snack, Edward, and Greg, respectively. At this point, I take a bunch of the meager coin I've gathered saving the countryside and buy 50 rawhide leather sections. I use this to make some Mighty Seeker gloves, then a few insignias and discover Seeker boots and Mighty Seeker vest. It ain't much, but it's quality armor I can rely on. Thus ends our first session, still alive, still going strong. Until next time, where trust issues and Skittles will see what lies beyond Metrica Province.